Hi, beautiful souls. Welcome to Fusion Wellness TV. Today's honored and respected guest is an Ayurvedic practitioner who is the founder of Sol Ayurveda. She's also been in the beauty industry for over 10 years, is an organic makeup artist, hairstylist. So let's give a warm welcome to Erika Gonzalez. Hi, Erika.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
Ooh, we're so excited to have you on today.
Thank
you for being here.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, and what did you see from the products that you were using with your clients and yourself that led you to a more holistic route?
I would say that the whole shift in researching products really was when I got pregnant with my daughter, actually.
Okay.
My initial, I guess, discovery on it was more so on the foods because I wasn't as focused or as aware as to all the stuff that's in our foods, like the preservatives and the colors and all that stuff. And when I started discovering that, I went over onto the cosmetic side and I realized that there was like tons of stuff in the cosmetic side that I would have never even imagined, like the petroleums and all of the parabens and just like crazy things in there that wouldn't necessarily, that you wouldn't think are in the actual products themselves. So I just kind of went down this wormhole of all of the stuff that's in there, and the fact that the US doesn't really have much regulation on the cosmetics industry. And I think like at the time there was only maybe, I think there was like 10 or 11 ingredients that were actually banned here in the US compared to over in Europe where they have like over 1,000 that are banned that you can't add into your cosmetics. But here they just kind of allow it in so many different things, and that's, I think that to me was shocking, was going from seeing it in our foods to also seeing it in our products. And I think from there I was realizing that all of the clients that I had that were coming in, they all had some kind of like autoimmune condition, or they've been through like a cancer or something. And you know, it's really unfortunate that there's so many people out there that are so sick, and it could be so I mean, it could just be modified if only they were using like, you know, better products, or they were using, you know, healthier food options. But I think for me, when I made the choice and the decision to go over onto more of organic and non-toxic cosmetics for myself and my family, I wanted to go through and do that for my clients that I had also, whether for hair or for makeup, is really like, I want to be able to guarantee to somebody that, you know, I'm going to give you natural, not just natural looks, but also natural products for your health. And I think that, I mean, it took a while for people to understand, but I feel like now that's more growing, and that's been good to be in the realm already.
Yeah. Well, to hear, like you said, there's so much that isn't regulated inside of the cosmetic industry, and to hear that you actually label yourself too as a organic makeup artist, I feel that that starts to create rifts in conversations because so much of even popular brands are using certain, as you said, fillers and different types of byproducts that are just not, you know, that can be irritants to the skin. And that was a big part of our journey too, you know, of learning just with even, like said, some of the bigger brands, and nothing wrong with that if someone on their journey, you know, likes it for a psychological effect, like, you know, if it's a pretty color, or, you know, it's shimmer, you know, it can also have a uplifting effect. But as far as the actual, like you said, ingredients and paying attention to what they do to you, you know, not just going by what it is as far as a luxury product.
Yeah.
You know, really doing your research.
Yeah.
And it also, so you were talking about nutrition, how that played a big role, just kind of having an awareness more and learning from your clients what was, you know, causing some of the irritants as well. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like that led into Ayurveda. Mm-hmm. So why Ayurveda?
So I like to say that Ayurveda found me.
Ooh.
I think that
I love that. Yeah. Yeah.
Without you really thinking about it, there is just a way that Ayurveda just kind of comes to you, and you see it also within like the Ayurvedic community. A lot of people will just tell you that it just kind of randomly happens. But you know, when I came across Ayurveda, I was doing skincare classes over at Dermalogica, and at the time I was like, you know what, I want to know how ingredients work, and I want to know what's the best way to help for people with their skin and all this good stuff.
Yeah.
And at the time they had partnered with a company that was doing animal testing.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't feel that it was useful for me to be contributing to a company that was doing animal testing, even if it wasn't like directly through them. So I started looking for alternates, for more like herbal classes, if you will, that were going to give me more of an idea as to how a certain herb worked on your skin, or how, like what was going to be better for a certain like rash or something. And at the time there was tons of Ayurveda, just any kind of pictures and posts and blog things and all these things that just kept on popping up. And I was like, what is that?
Just guidance, as you said.
It just kept on, yeah. And I mean, having never typed it in myself, so I just found it strange that it was coming up on my feed. But I looked more into it, and I found that they have so much more stuff on like the different herbal protocols and different things with like your nutrition and stuff. But when I first went in, I was like, this is great, I'm gonna learn all there is about the Ayurvedic herbology and then apply that to my skincare stuff that I was doing. But when I did sign up, you know, I found out that there was a school that was near me, and I think originally, you know, I thought about it. I'm like, you know, if I have to drive a certain length, then I'll go and I'll do it. So signed up for everything, and the counselor reached out to me and was like, I'll send you the address. You can come in and talk to the program director. And I ended up finding out that it was like 10 minutes from my house, which was
really?
like amazing.
Yeah.
And
wow.
Once I went in there, it's just crazy, because you realize that it's just so much more beyond like the physical aspect. You know, what was really neat to me was that it really focuses on the healing of the mind, the body, and the spirit. And to me, that was a big thing, because most of what I grew up in was just either like maybe a certain aspect of the mind, and mostly like on the body and like what the outside looks like and everything, but really bringing everything together and realizing that everybody's different healing journey is going to be unique to them, and nothing's going to be the same. And I think with Ayurveda, you know, it really focuses yourself to really just tune into who you are, and to heal a certain aspect of you that you didn't know needed healing. And from there, it just kind of took to kind of identify what dosha they are. So there's different characteristics and body characteristics, if you will, that are unique to every single dosha. And so I identify that, and then based on what they tell me is where my focus goes. Sometimes I'm talking to somebody and I see them shaking their legs a lot, or they're like looking around, and it's really hard for them to like focus. So I know it's going to be more of a like a Vata condition where they can't really focus. Vatas are harder to focus because of that wind element within them that is constantly like on the go. But you know, it can also be maybe like a rash or an acne, or it could be maybe more of like an aggressiveness or something that could be maybe more pitta related. But for kaphas, I think, you know, it can vary because sometimes they can just be totally fine and chill and just they're always like the go-lucky, like caring kind of people. But sometimes if they're too off balance, it could be when they're like lethargic or depressed or overweight. And so based on what their main concern is, if it's stress, if it's maybe like some anxiety, if it's like maybe just learning how to eat for their body type. So I just identify it, give them a certain protocol based on like diet, lifestyle, exercise, herbal protocol, and I kind of guide them as to what would be the best for their dosha. Yeah, I think that's like my general first step, is just identifying it and then going from there, giving them small steps, just because sometimes because it's still so new and people don't really understand it too much, if I give them too much all at once, they get a little flustered and they might like back away from it because it's new and there's words that they probably haven't heard before. So
Well, yeah, and it's cool though, because what I've found from just doing more research of Ayurveda, it's so colorful. That's how I feel when I see it. It's just the energy with it, like you said, multifaceted. It's not just treating one, you know, symptom. It's not just trying to treat a surface level issue. It's actually trying to get to more of the root of how these things are manifesting. And that's the color of life.
Yeah.
You know, and that's, I feel like India as well is that color,
so
that
colorful.
spice. Oh, yeah. It's so colorful. And to come at a time of your life too, where you were making such a big shift, you know, out of so many prior, you know, conditioning and a new child and just a rebirth of yourself.
Yeah.
That spark, you know, like you said, just calling to you.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful to hear what that divine guidance led for you. And when now you're able to see people and facilitate that energy for them when they're at that point, like you said, you don't want too much. It's like any type of guidance. We need it, you know, just okay, I get the signal, I understand. I'm going to now choose to probably implement the information to go forward. But I also love how you said, you know, rooted more in science. And I know for the most part, right, this is actually a medicine that has been around for around centuries. Right? So what did you personally have to do to kind of allow yourself to break, you know, certain belief systems to allow it to work for you, to allow Ayurveda to work for you?
I would say in really understanding and accepting that like plants and your food really can do a lot for you. I grew up in like a household that always had like the Tylenols and the Motrins and all of the cough syrup, because if any small sneeze came up, it was like an automatic thing. And I think for me, like my grandma, she always had like some kind of herbal tea from some plant she would have in the backyard or something. And I remember thinking to myself like, oh, that's weird. Like I don't know, you know, if I can drink this because it came from our garden, but I know that I can take a Motrin because of course they've had to have, you know, looked into it, and I know that it works. And then Ayurveda came in and it was just kind of like, actually, plants can do so much more, and they were around for so much longer than any of the Western medicine that we have now. And a good amount of the, like some of the medicines that we have are even like derived from certain, like either civilizations or plants that we have. And I found it amazing because we had clinic days, and I would see people come in, and we would go through this whole like protocol of their treatments and their herbal protocols that they had to follow, and I would see the shift in them. And for me, that was the moment where I was like, it's not just about constant medication. It's really diving deep into yourself and seeing what it is that is off, implementing some herbal protocols, and really noticing that the earth is really here for our healing. It's not just to take from it. There's a lot that we can get from it, and there's a lot that is really out there for us to heal, but we have to listen. I think once I acknowledged that, and I was able to bring my family along, and they were all seeing me like make this shift, and they're like, what is this weird thing you're doing? But once I got everybody on board,
it's just funny when you make that shift for yourself, you know, the ripple effect.
That's the nice part. It's amazing. And I think once I saw certain family members reaching out for either advice, or if they started taking their own health into their own hands and applying Ayurvedic principles to it, then I was like, oh, this is great. Let's get it out to everybody else. So it's been nice.
Well, I love hearing, Erika, just what it's done for you, what Ayurveda has done for you. And it sounds like it really was rooted for you in an intention of healing and wanting that for your life going forward. Not wanting to supplement any longer from an external source. For maybe happiness, whatever you said, as far as externally searching for a solution. And when these can be used as tools. Some of these medicines can be used as tools, what we label as medicine, right? It's all a perspective. But here in the US, what we label as medicines and over-the-counter medicines, like you spoke about, it's like we have to relearn then, what is right for our own bodies, listening to our own inner wisdom, and challenging our certain belief systems. But like you said, it's very worth it, the ripple effect that happens. And you start to create then too for generationally, in your family and community, just from you choosing to do that work on yourself. And that's super cool.
Absolutely. It's really neat to be able to see, like, the people before me, like what they went through, and maybe like what small things they used, whether it was like a plant or just a home remedy. And I think about what they might have done, and I think about what my future generations will do, just having like the addition of Ayurveda. It's so the neat color to again. Think about it. It's just, it's really neat. And I look at my daughter, and it's nice because she can go to our garden, and I'll tell her like to get a certain plant, and we'll make food with what we have. We'll make some teas, and she understands that there's a value to like the plants beyond something that's going to be like, like a shrub or something for decoration. She really sees the value in having a medicinal, like, or just a cooking spice. So it's nice to see, and hopefully she takes that through with her through her life as well.
Well, that's beautiful. And that was, I really wanted to, what has your daughter taught you?
She has taught me so many things. I think for me, honestly, is just the true power of forgiveness. I think it's so easy for us to take it for granted, and I think that as a parent, you look at this little being, and if you snap at them, you know that even if it's not intentional, you know that these little beings, like, they look up to you, they love you so much that they're so quick to forgive. And I've taken that and I've applied that to the relationships that I have as an adult now, because I see where I was so quick to judge and maybe like hold a grudge and wasn't understanding somebody, but I can see the benefit of why it would be useful to forgive and understand and communicate more. And really, I think, I would say forgiveness and joy. I think it's really amazing when you see these little beings kind of floating around and singing and just performing all the time, you start realizing the true meaning of joy and just understand it in your own life. Like when you are happy with what you have, with like all of your surroundings, it's nice to find that joy in your day-to-day experiences, as well as that forgiveness, and you can find it for yourself and you can find it for those around you, and that's those two things I feel have been the most eye-opening for me, is just experiencing joy, experiencing forgiveness, and experiencing like the true, like the purest love that I could ever imagine. She's taught me a lot about just that. I get all emotional with it, but she's definitely taught me a lot about just being a kinder human being.
Well, it's incredible. Thank you for sharing her energy too. You know, when you you just get to feel it. You know, with how much she means to you. You know, and how connected you two are. You can feel that connection. Oh, she's a part of you. You're helped teaching her too. You know, to be also. You know, you learn from her, but you're also teaching her vicariously too, from what you're doing, like you said, and implementing those healthier lifestyles, and to be able to facilitate that for her. That of course came from your own inner work. So, you know, you guys help one another.
That's been a good thing to see. Is it's neat. As I mentioned kind of before, is just to see how it'll translate and continue to move forward in her own life. It's just like our relationship, and then our ambience at home, and just appreciating like the food and the connection of sitting down for a meal, and just communicating. There's a lot that I'm absolutely grateful for Ayurveda, and just switching my life around from a very superficial aspect of life to a more like inner, trusting your inner guidance kind of a thing.
Ooh. Well, we love that here. We do. We do. That's what led us, you know, that's what led this company too, and for us to speak. So we're all about that. And to hear just the intensity of what, you know, Ayurveda has done for you, and it's come from that authentic place. You know, you can't fake, Erika, you know, your emotional states, right? And that's a big thing for us too, is really allowing yourself to heal. And even speaking about your daughter and what it's taken to get to this point of realizations of where you are today and what led that, but it's like using those natural remedies just seems like too, it helped to shift your mindset, but it also feels like it helped you to connect, you know, more to yourself and in your heart and your daughter. Well, the power of plants.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
So simple, but we forget. We, you know, we get in this hustle and bustle, like you said, a different way of life. And when it goes back to literally the roots, it's like literally plants, we start realizing how much energy they carry too. You know, I mean, it's a living, they're alive.
That's very true. I had just a mini side story with regards to roots. I had to separate this plant that I had. It was like this big aloe vera plant, and it was given to me from my grandma, because as I mentioned, she's the one that kind of started me on this whole little plant journey. The roots inside, they had molded together because it ended up being two plants instead of one. And so I took it apart. I was trying to plant them in two different planters, and I realized that on the middle of the two plants of all the roots, there was still like soil and rocks from what my grandma got out from her own like home. And it was just kind of crazy because we get so like used to the idea that we need like all of the fancy soils and all like the perlites and all this stuff, right? And I was looking at this this, it was like a mass of roots. And when I finally took it apart, I realized that they were so pure, and it just made me think of, you know, what are we carrying in our own roots? Like we dig deep into like where we're from and what we call like our life and our background, but there's a lot that we could be carrying with us, you know, and just like these roots we're carrying with them, like stones and pebbles and random like clay, dirt instead of the fertilizer kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how you can shake off some of it and you get these like brand new, totally fine roots that you can start over on a new planter, which could be like our new life essentially, once you let go of these rocks and like closed up soil around us that's keeping us from moving forward. But I just felt that was like such a like I could apply it so much to my life.
Yeah.
There's so many things that I was carrying around, and maybe even other people, you know, we don't realize that there's so much stuff that we're carrying around in our own journey, and that sometimes we just have to shake it off a little to continue and just keep going and really trust ourselves.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that was an incredible, like you said, analogy. So thank you for sharing, because that in itself is something that we all work on, is learning to detach. You know,
That's true.
because it is sometimes a process, learning to detach from our previous selves too.
Yeah.
You know, just previous reality we carried with us. And it can sometimes be a little scary for people to leave those aspects of themselves and with those people, environments. But like you said, the grounding is the trust, right? When you trust that you'll make it through no matter what.
Yes.
You're going to be okay. You know? Because we get caught, we can allow ourselves to get caught sometimes in the, you know, just illusions. They're just illusions.
Right.
But they sometimes feel real. And, you know, that's where we work through our own insecurities and fears and learn more about ourselves to see that, okay, when we shine the light, it's really not as big of a deal in for the new. You start realizing how much more you actually had figured out, too. It's interesting, you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes our past lives in that way and past relationships, it can cloud sometimes. We allow it to cloud just more of who we are. And when we start remembering who we truly are, we start to go, oh, I had it all figured out, really, you know? But just trusting it.
Yes. I think, I mean, I can't say in any way that I'm like perfect and that I figured out all of life's trickeries and all that stuff, but I can identify specific times where I know that I've like almost like stepped into that whole cloudy aspect of not trusting, you know, and I think that when I really noticed those times when I did trust and really just like was open to just receiving and just being guided, I'm like, yes, this is it. Like, this is great. Yeah. And then I don't know, like sometimes like you go back into this thing where it's just like, oh, I don't know if I could really do that. But just thinking of the two paths that I can take and that I've seen myself take, and I'm like, why don't I like continuously going on the path where I know that I'm being guided? And I think, I don't know. I think we all kind of do that sometimes.
Oh, we all do. Oh, yeah.
But like you said,
it's human.
Yeah. I think you said earlier something about like we're so kind of conditioned in this society where you have to do like this, and then like in order to be happy in one spot of your life, like you have to have all these other things, and then the comparison aspect comes in where you're like, well, I'm this years old, like I should have this and that. But I think that when you really take the day like for the present and really acknowledge like more of that sense of gratitude and openness and accepting that you're being directed in the right path as long as you trust, I think that's when you really have those breakthrough moments where you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, this is what I needed.
Yes, that's so true.
Yeah, it's definitely a trusting journey, like you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it is. I mean, we learn at a young age to, just seek a little bit for external answers. If we don't usually have a guidance system of an outside parent being able to facilitate that, but it's nothing against their programming as well. That's all that they knew to be able to facilitate whatever they learned. So, and they just carry that information. So that's why usually things are not intentional. And that's where we do more healing of ourselves to realize, okay, our parents too, they were just doing the best under their circumstances. Now, does it make certain things, go away? No. Those things happened. Yeah. But it also shaped us into who we are today, like the being into who it is today. So it's all a part of it. Yeah. And like you said, when you start to let go of the old story, the belief systems, you start to realize like, oh wow, it's actually, this is super just magical place to live. Yeah. But it takes practice to, release, let go, and just keep on the journey. Because we are always all figuring it out. And earlier with figured out, yes, I mean, it's like, it's a continuous journey. And we're always at different points of the journey at different times, so that we can get to a point where, we just feel more free. And freedom is unique to each person. Yes. Yes. And what would you label as freedom, Erika, to you? What does freedom mean to you?
That's hard to say, freedom to me, there's different variables to it, because I feel that freedom really it's just such a unique concept, but we all think that it has to do something with being tied down. But I think freedom could be like a mental, where you've overcome a mental roadblock. It could be liberating yourself from a habit that you had that you didn't even realize you had. I think freedom, if I have to pinpoint it right now, I would just say it's just being, it sounds a little cliche, but just being happy with what I have. I think that to me is freedom, because you're not so concerned with needing more. It just comes down to being content with what you have, really, and just experiencing life to its fullness, so that you could have freedom. Just like it would be closer to a spiritual freedom, where you're just you can just breathe.
You're not holding on too tightly.
I think it would definitely be a mental thing for me. It's just letting go of certain worries, certain fears, and just releasing, and just
just more being, like you said, and an appreciation for what you have, who you are. And that's beautiful to hear, because we were speaking before. The viewers don't fully know the conversation, but before we started filming, you shared about what COVID has helped in your own life during this time, and learning to appreciate what you have on a deeper level. Yes. And so if you can share that with the viewers, Erika, just what COVID has taught you so far. We're still in it. But so far.
So far, yeah. It's just really, as I just kind of mentioned again, but it's just really taught me to appreciate my family, my home, so many different things that I thought I just took for granted. I was so used to being on the go, and I was so always constantly thinking of okay, I have this, but what can I do to make it better? And COVID just really sat me down and literally and figuratively. And it just really made me look at what I have. I got to spend time with my child that I was missing out on because I was always on the road, and it made me sit down and really take into consideration my mom for who she is, and you know, my relationship that I had that we had just separated. Like I realized that there was so many things that I was so focused on the more and the better and the blah blah blah, and it's just really helped me to appreciate my home, but not just my physical home, like my spiritual home, like I consider my home like everyone within my family. So I've just been really focused on appreciating them and appreciating the roof on where I live, and the carpet. Sometimes I'm like, yes, this is amazing. I have carpet. I have hardwood floor. Instead of seeing this building that I would always come to at the end of my work day, I just realized that it's really like my little sanctuary, and I can make it as good or as bad as I want, but I've made it the best that I can for my family and whoever is in there, and just appreciating a lot, and realizing that I don't know everything, and that I don't need more and I don't need better. I just need to focus on what I have and improve it, but in a way that's not because I want it, but more so because of the thing can flourish and grow without my input, if you will.
That's that was absolutely incredible to hear, you know, Erika, because and just what you've come to for yourself, and facilitating that energy in your home. For your loved ones, that's an inspiration. Because for a lot of people, we've all been experiencing the change. As you said, sitting you down, you know, COVID sitting you down. I love that. Just basically, it stopped us all in our tracks that way. But for a purpose, and to learn, and to grow and to evolve into more of who you are. And to really, though, take a step back, and truly take a step back with gratitude. It takes a lot of self-discipline, you know, because we can allow ourselves to run in our, you know, mental states, and that's okay if, you know, that happens, but bringing it back to center, you know, as quickly as we can, just so that we feel better too. Because we don't feel good when we do that. It's just like when we run, you know, with the thoughts of the stress, the fears, like you said, the worries, it starts then to become kind of just not serving us. So when we start to realize that, as you spoke about, that this was really an opportunity for you to take in already what was around you, but in a different lens, and a lens of perspective that's more fitting for the current times, that I feel, you know, just the planet's promoting to, but it's beautiful to hear that you use this as an opportunity for growth.
Yes. There is definitely some days that were easier than others, but you know, this has definitely made me get closer, like spiritually, and like my own spiritual life, and also just really try and understand that the bad days aren't forever, and you know, it's not very often that we're going to get another, how many, 5, 6 months to just be and reconnect, and I've definitely tried to gain a lot of perspective and growth, and you know, not be so hard on myself when I can't achieve something, but really understand that when I find a roadblock or something that I find harder, it's just something that's making me grow and think outside of the box instead of just always being like on this linear path. So
that's incredible, because it takes, it just takes allowing yourself to see that and see the kind of infinite possibilities that are for you too. when you start to open yourself up to it. And then it doesn't have to, you start not feeling like it has to be one thing.
Yes.
And that's it. And,
Yes.
you know, it's over. And it's just like, no, wait. You know, divine guidance, as we spoke about earlier, you start to, and I love how you said receive. You start to put yourself more into a state of receiving. And just a kind of clearer vibration, as we would say.
Yeah.
For source to give you more inspiration, you know, to help facilitate more for you.
Yeah.
And I wanted to, Erika, ask you, because we're really big here at Fusion Wellness with chronic pain. And so, you know, personally with my own journey with chronic pain, this is where, you know, Fusion Wellness manifested from. But do you work with clients who experience chronic pain with Ayurveda?
I do to a certain extent. There are some that we can treat, like for example, if there's like a knee pain or if there's like a back pain, there are some treatments that we can do, which are generally, they're called bosties, and depending on where they are is like where the difference in the name comes in. But for the most part, it's this, it's like almost like a dough, and you put it into a ring and you put a medicinal oil onto it. But you would add that on as a treatment, as well as certain like herbs. So we can treat them. I have I think she's 62-year-old that I'm helping right now with like a degenerative like knee pain. And you know, it's possible and it's capable of being managed. You just really have to put in the work. There's treatments that we can add on. There's like certain breath work and certain exercises that we can add on. But the most important thing is when somebody comes to me is addressing that person and just making sure that they're ready to take their health into their own hands. I think sometimes people go to certain practitioners or doctors or therapists, whatever it may be, and they expect them to like help them and do it for them, essentially.
Yes, it's you know,
yeah, and I think with Ayurveda, you know, you're given a foundation, you're giving stepping stones, and you have all these tools that you can use, but you have to actually take that leap and make the commitment to yourself to put yourself and your health first. But there is things that we can do for them. Of course, there are other instances where we integrate both like Eastern and Western medicine. One thing that was like huge to me when going through the schooling for this was that our professor always mentioned like Ayurveda is not like the best of the best. Like there is a time and place for like Western medicine to come in, and the best thing, if anything, would be to integrate them. So if somebody comes with a certain condition and they're already taking something, I always like make sure that it can be cleared with like their own doctor, just in case there's more of a condition that they may have, or they do like vice versa, where we can alternate and share things as to what they're taking Ayurvedically, or like just basic medicine pain modifications that they do. And I think that's where really the whole aspect of Ayurveda can really be beneficial, is when you can integrate it with what we already have to just help somebody heal on a deeper level than just like helping a surface level symptom. So, yeah.
Well, to hear that, as you spoke about the integration, that is so big with any type of condition that would be labeled as chronic. I feel to really see what works on a holistic level, and holistic meaning the whole person. And so if something works with somebody in the Western realm with an integrative approach with Ayurveda, that can really be a program that can help them become more optimized individuals. Because personally, going through chronic pain, it was just a really big debilitation in all areas of my life. Now, I love how you said doing the work on yourself, because that was personally what I chose not to do at the time. I mean, I was still doing work, but just not healthy work. Just not work that was going to help me. It just kind of it just further perpetuated personal pain. And for my own personal life journey, and this is not for everyone, but personal life journey, I really found that, as you were speaking about earlier, the nutritional changes, that was huge. Getting off the pharmaceuticals, that was big. Like I said, I'm not saying this is for everyone, but it definitely can help to get off of those chemicals and also certain irritants in your diet. What already that can do for you.
That's true, yeah.
So it sounds like, you're being able to bring that forward for people. It's a great alternative.
Yeah. It's definitely, eye-opening for those that choose to go through either like Ayurveda or any other like holistic medicine. It opens their eyes to like their own individual like healing, but through food. Like it's amazing how like removing nightshades can alleviate like pain, or like discomfort in the digestive system. Like it's hard for a lot of people to do, but I like to recommend to do like a journal of what they're eating, and then that way they can more so identify like how they were feeling post a meal. Like whenever you eat, you should feel light and energized. You shouldn't feel like heavy and sluggish. That's something that's kind of hindering and like kind of like staying behind in your digestive system. So you need to add some more stuff to it, more like maybe like herbs and spices to kind of like help digest and move through you, right? But the journal I like to mention just because some people feel really sleepy after having maybe like a piece of pizza, or like if they think it's really healthy, sometimes they'll eat like a big bowl of like rice and vegetables, but it's covered in a bunch of sauces. So really identifying like how you felt a certain way after a certain meal will help guide you as to what to avoid or what to minimize. And that I think is, like I said, it's kind of hard for some people, but I think it's good just because it's one step that you can take to be like, okay, maybe I shouldn't have broccoli because it made me feel this way, or maybe I shouldn't have like quinoa, or actually quinoa you should probably incorporate because it's good. But there's some people who can't have it because it's technically like a seed, and so there's people who can't digest seeds. So just checking to see like how you felt with a certain meal just really helps to identify like how you can progress with your own health, and just feeding yourself just home cooked meals.
Well, I was also so intrigued by the Panchakarma. Is it Panchakarma? Panchakarma. Yeah.
Close.
Yeah, still learning. I'm so intrigued by it. So what have you personally experienced?
So Panchakarmas, they're unique in a sense that you get a whole restart. I mean, they are better to kind of like help like detox and get rid of a bunch of waste and stuff that you have, but along the way, if you're really doing it like consistently and sticking to your protocol, it really helps you realign with yourself again. With Panchakarmas, like you're cleansing, and if you're doing like the full-on thing where you're caused to like vomit, and you're caused to like clean your ears and your eyes and all your system inside, and you're only eating a specific meal and taking some herbal medication to or herbal herbs, sorry,
Yeah.
to help with that. And when you take all of that together, like, because you have to really be focused on yourself, like you shouldn't be like tending to like screaming kids or arguing with your partner or arguing with a friend. Like, you really have to like sit with yourself during this whole process. And for the most part, when we were in clinic, we would suggest that they take the time off of work for about like 7 days if you're going through those first 7 days, because you really need to connect, allow yourself to eliminate, and allow yourself to really just focus on your healing. Panchakarma is like, they're amazing in a sense that they could really help you to reset, but you really have to be prepared to do it, because it could mess up your system, your digestive system, if you're not doing it properly, or if you're not trained to do it. Also, if you miss a certain thing on it, it can kind of lessen the effects of it. So with Panchakarmas, you really have to use caution and just make sure you allow time for your own healing during that time frame. Yeah.
And from your just clinical standpoint in that way, what is actual Panchakarma? What is it?
So Panchakarma is a treatment, if you will.
Okay.
But you go through it to detox. Generally, you should do it like kind of like at the beginning of the seasons, like especially like spring, where you're getting rid of all of the kapha buildup, which is like that mucousy stuff that you'll start seeing in like spring with all the runny noses and the sneezes and all that stuff. You're trying to get rid of that film within your body. So there are like a Panchakarmas where you could just do them, like there's certain retreats that just offer them and they just do that, but ideally it's nice to do them like at the beginning of like a season, just because you're going into a new one. You're going to get rid of everything within, and then you go into the new season like clean. Spring is going to be the best time when you want to do Panchakarma, and you know, it's just an overall cleansing of the body. There's different treatments, like you do an abhyanga, which is like an oil massage. That's one of the treatments you do through it. It's like a medicated oil, and it's just meant to help like loosen the toxins within your body. You could do a shirodara, which is like a nice oil drop treatment.
Okay. Yeah.
You would also maybe do like nastya, which is like a medicated oil that goes into your nostrils, and it helps to bring up again like that any kind of mucousy kind of stuff that you have in your nasal passageway, and it's actually amazing for like sinuses and headaches and stuff like that. But there's just a few different treatments that are offered through it, and you combine it with like taking like a triphala to just detox. You're essentially detoxing, you're cleansing, but you're using like all of these herbal protocols to really just get yourself clean. Hopefully that makes sense, but
yeah. Well, it definitely gives more insight. And like I said, you know, like I was saying, I definitely, you know, it's still a beginner, so to hear and to share with the viewers, because it is a very intriguing topic, I feel, just on a detoxification level of your mind, body, and spirit, because we do, as we spoke about in the beginning, go through where we do carry a lot of our past with us.
Yeah.
And so shedding that and letting it go, and you know, embracing the new version of yourself. But like you said, Erika, it's really being very close to yourself, you know, and giving yourself that space.
Yeah.
So it can just be the most effective. And what can, you know, from a physiological standpoint, how does Ayurveda view pain? Like on a disease level, how does Ayurveda view disease?
Okay, so it gets kind of complex because Ayurveda is, since it is like a lot more medical than people assume, the answer to that can get the different diseases. So the easiest way for me to describe that would be that all of the diseases have a certain characteristics of the individual doshas. So whenever you see a certain condition, we are trained to see it from like a vata, pitta, or kapha way, which probably doesn't make a lot of sense to you, but there's a lot to it, but really the simplest way that I could put it is we take the disease and we see if it has maybe more like fevers with it, if it has more like bone pain to it, if it has more maybe like a mucus or like a pulmonary thing or anything like that, and we see what its individual characteristics are, and we apply that to the different doshas, and we see what kind of disease it is, and try and come around it with certain protocols that we would do for that dosha, so as to balance it. So in Ayurveda, like increases like, and so if you are experiencing a lot of pain, pain is more so like regulated by the vata dosha. So if you are experiencing a lot of pain and you are eating a lot of cold things, a lot of dry things, that's already so dry in nature, and vata is already dry with like the air and space quality. So you would have to do the opposite and give like more warming foods or herbs to create that warmness within. So for pain, as I was saying, for vatas, you have to minimize everything that's going to increase that dryness so that you're not increasing the pain. So a lot of people, when they have pain, they get an ice pack, right? But ideally what you should be doing is getting something warm and applying like a hot like compress, because that's going to do the opposite. If you're doing cold, like increases like, as I mentioned, so you're going to have that continuous sense of pain because you're making that spot that's already dry and cold in quality even colder. So it's really unique, and, and it can just keep going. But
well, you just opened my mind personally, hearing, because I just had my own personal realization where that makes sense on a very, it's like my mother. I was thinking about my mother as you were saying it, and I go, she's dealt with knee pain, and she's had knee replacements, and she's personally dealt with a lot of pain in her knees. And it's interesting because, yes, every time, she puts on an ice pack, which would be the typical, it does create more pain, and she starts to become even more just, she kind of shrivels up, even just physically, like she, will shrivel instead of allowing herself to let go of the pain, also just kind of feel more in alignment with herself. It's interesting how the demeanor, too, so that could possibly be something that is contributing.
Yes.
Wow. it's cool because I personally feel like I might be a kapha. I personally might. What do you think?
I would say you're more in like a vata.
A vata, okay.
Vata side.
Okay. Yeah.
But like there's two different sides. There's like the dosha you're born with, and then the dosha that may be imbalanced. And so sometimes we tend to gravitate towards what we're feling in the present, which is when we go more towards like the kapha side, right?
Yeah.
So
true. Yeah.
So I mean, you could have a blend of it, but it could just be that maybe at this time kapha has kind of like risen more, and you would just have to like balance it a little bit. But I would say more on the vata side. But I could see like certain things of like the kapha aspect. I just
So for all of you out there who are interested in getting to know more of yourself and also your Ayurvedic profile, you can reach Erika
at Sol Ayurveda on Instagram, or you could find me on Mindful Beauty with Erika, both on Instagram, and you can try soul.ayurveda.com
Yes.
for some more information as well.
Well, we just thank you, Erika, for being a part of our experience today. And keep healing for the viewers. It's worth it. And catch us next time.